Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens, and welcome back to our series on COVID-19 heroes and experts. Our hero today is Dr. Sohail Rana, who is a professor of pediatrics at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and a world-renowned expert in pediatric HIV, who has continued to provide services to kids and teens during these difficult times. Dr. Rana, thank you so much for your service.
Well, thank you so much, Siri. Well, there are some corrections. Hopefully, I'm not world renowned and I'm no hero. I'm just doing what God told me to do and sometime doing okay. So it's been a wonderful journey overall. Yes.
Dr. Rana, thank you so much for being here with us today. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to go into pediatrics?
Well, I was born in Pakistan and I went to school in King Edward Medical College. And actually, I had no idea that I would end up in the United States around fourth year of medical school. I saw everybody, especially my close friends, said, we have to go to the United States to study more. And I just joined the bandwagon and I started preparing for exam and took the exam and did well. And I applied by mail, simple mail. For residency programs. And as I was applying, I wanted to do cardiology. And during that time, I had a rotation in pediatrics. And I thought initially that these guys were weird because they treated each other so well. They spoke kindly. They worried about not only whether child ate, but also whether child's mother ate. These were hospitalized children with variety of different illnesses. So registrar, did the mother get food? How did the mother sleep? Yeah, so I thought they were very weird, but really, really very kind and gentle people. So I've always wanted to be a unicorn, just a little weird. So that appealed to me. So I sent in application half to internal medicine and half to pediatrics. And I ended up matching in pediatrics. But somebody was offering me a job outside medicine, but I was too much of a chicken. I wanted to stick to what I was matched to. So I arrived in Brooklyn with two suitcases. If you know Brooklyn, there's a D train, Flatbush train, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had two suitcases. I took a cab to the hospital, and I was sitting outside the hospital, June 28th or 29th. My residency was supposed to start in 2 days, so I was early. And I didn't know a single person in New York at that time. And that was the beginning. That was 1976. And this is what, 2020, right? So it's been a minute. So it's been a wonderful journey, yes.
And Dr. Rana, what would you say is your favorite part about your job and work right now?
There's so many favorite things. I take care of children with serious chronic illnesses like sickle cell disease, HIV, and many other, some mental illnesses. And many a time I started taking care of children when they were born. And sometimes we were doing clinical trials, and even when these children were in the womb of the mother, in the uterus, and I got to know them. And some of them, I'm still seeing them at 30 years of age. And when they do well, it is awesome feeling, like it's your own child. And sometimes they're not doing so well, but they pick up the phone and they call me and say, Dr. Anna, I had nobody else to call. And it touches my heart deeply. So that's one of the most touching part. My sister was one day visiting me, and because I had by mistake brought her car keys, put them in my pocket and drove, and then realized, and I called her, and she came all the way to pick up the car keys. And she was standing, she's a physicist, she has a PhD in mathematical physics, and she was standing at the door, and this 2.5, 3-year-old boy ran from across the hall about 150 feet, screaming, Dr. Rana, Dr. Rana. And he came and he hugged my legs while she was talking to me. And she looked at me so enviously, and she says, I can never achieve that, what you just did. So those are the things which just really make you feel great. But biggest thing is being able to do for people. I usually post something on WhatsApp, and today I sent Juma Mubarak, Friday, a blessed Friday, have a blessed Friday. And it said underneath that the best blessing is to be able to bless other people lives, to make a difference in other people's life, to be a blessing for other people. And I think I've been very blessed to be able to make, a little bit difference in people's life, working with very impoverished, marginalized population, inner city, very poor. But it's just awesome, just to be able to be there sometime when they need me.
That's so wonderful. Dr. Rana, I did want to switch over a little bit to the COVID-19 pandemic now. How has life changed for you and your family because of the pandemic?
Well, both my wife and I are doctors, so we've been working. Uh, I actually have not missed a day of work. Uh, I
Wow.
I had a vacation time, but I somehow kept coming for one reason or the other, because I had so much unfinished business. So I would say that it's become a little lonely because I was used to a lot of traffic. I have very wonderful people I work with within my own unit, so I miss them dearly. We have, you know, Zoom calls and we exchange email, but not seeing them, it's been hard. A lot of our research work has been on hold. Some we couldn't put on hold. We organized Stigma Conference, and that has to go become virtual. And I'm not liking the idea of it going virtual because so much of it is touchy feely. You hug each other, you cry together, uh, and but we are going virtual because there's no choice. So we are organizing this morning. One of the conference call was about the meeting, how to do it and do it effectively from people all over the world. Uh, Patient work has actually increased because so many patients are trying to get everything done by telephone, and that makes it double hard. And that part I'm not liking it. Sometimes it's pushing it, but patient load has increased, and phone calls have increased. uh, so I'm happy schedules are full. Most of the patients are showing up within the last 2 weeks. So I've been a little bit happier. So students have returned to our clinic. So that's wonderful, because that's what I came to Harvard for, to teach and to take care of the patient. So I'm doing what I'm supposed to, and I'm feeling very good, very positive.
And a large discussion now with the onset of the pandemic has been kids getting the COVID-19 virus. How likely are kids to get COVID-19, and what effects of COVID have you seen in kids?
I have only a couple of patients who got infected, and they recovered quite well. I lost one or two kids with sickle cell, and I don't know if they had COVID-19 because they died suddenly. It's unlikely that they had COVID-19. The children who were admitted where my wife works at Children's Hospital, most of them have recovered quite well. They some may end up having some residual um, effects on their heart or other organ system, which would take long time to recover. But as such, it's a very small percentage of total individual of all individuals who are becoming infected who will have serious sequelae. And it's definitely, as we are learning, it's more serious than flu, but it's not as bad as we originally thought. So I'm very hopeful. I think it's good to be very careful, but in a smart way. I think face masks are so critical. I think using face masks would make a big difference. I think being careful when one is sick to don't give it to others. I think that's very critical. Washing hand is very critical. But also, I think it's so important to be positive and try to make a difference in other people's lives, those who are suffering. so many people are suffering economically, and I think even if you can go feed one or two people, homeless people, other people who may have lost their job, anything you can do for your community next door neighbors, it's very big. So I think that's our duty, to find out if my neighbor had something to eat, and to make sure that they get fed, or anything else we can do to make a difference in their life.
And I think that concept is especially important now where we're all being more careful. It's important to continue to think of others and think of helping others out. And Dr. Rana, you're known for your work in eliminating stigma associated with HIV. At this point, is COVID-19 a social stigma? And how can we prevent how can we prevent COVID-19 from becoming a stigma? And how can kids and teens overcome the fear of a stigma in general, not necessarily just COVID-19?
Right. Childhood is a very difficult time, and you don't want to be different in any way. So people have. I remember, I had great difficulty. Was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I had great difficulty telling anybody I had high blood pressure. And high blood pressure is not an out disease. It's an in disease many a time. It's like breast cancer. It's very sad for somebody to get breast cancer, but it's an in disease. In disease meaning people feel very free to talk about it openly, ask for funds, ask for support, and go out and talk about breast cancer. Well, things like HIV and infections are not like that. And frequently, especially when it comes to infection, people feel that, oh, he got cooties, but now all of us are being treated like we have cooties. So, people see you and then suddenly start putting masks on. And I said, are you doing it because you're sick, or whether you're scared of me? I said, I'm doing it because of you. So what I'm saying, it's, but fortunately, one thing which is different with COVID-19 from the very beginning is that it did not respect any of the economic boundaries. So both upper, middle, and poor class got affected, at least initially across the board. Well, you compare it to something like HIV, it was affecting, oh, you have to be gay, or you have to be a Haitian, or you have to be a drug user. So the classes which were, kind of marginalized anyway. So, so that is something different from COVID-19. But for a child, I think the most important thing to say that it's no different. I mean, it's very little difference than flu, and chances are, even if somebody gets it, you're going to recover from it uneventfully, and you are going to be fine. Chances are 99.9% that you would recover from it completely without any complications, even if you get it. And chances of getting, I think real figures are important, that look, there are, look in a stadium full of 100,000 people watching a football game, huh? That at this time, only one or two of them are infected, who can give it to you. So I think that gives some context to people. A full stadium full of people and only one or two people, and they are wearing masks, what are your chances of getting it? Very, very minimal. So yes, be careful, but be positive. Your chances of getting it are extremely small. They're nothing to be afraid of.
And the pandemic now has posed all of us, with several difficult decisions, one of which is, should we return to school? Some schools have decided to go online. However, some schools are giving students and parents the choice of online schooling versus a hybrid model of physical schooling combined with online and virtual instruction. What would be your advice for parents and teens, and what factors do you think one needs to consider to help make that decision?
I, I'm an optimist, and I think, but what worries me is that we have a whole generation of kids who already missed 4 months of education. Even though kids were on Zoom and this and that, uh, it really wasn't much learning, especially for kids in elementary, and middle school. There was not much learning going on. Most of the learning happened with children working with each other in the classroom, going to classroom. There's so much to learn socially, but also this put a huge burden on parents. So many parents are not able to work. So many parents are at home. They may be working from home, but are because the children are home, they have to pay attention and they're constantly being interrupted. So my bias, and I may be wrong, but my bias is that with carefulness, with protection, I think children should go back to school with precautions, with frequent screening, precautions in school for good hygiene, good hand washing. I think we are going to be okay. That's my bias, and all I can say is I may be wrong, but I think we got to move on. I think we have put the whole world on hold, and it's the poor people who are paying the biggest price, and children are paying a price by not being educated. So we got to move on.
And now, as we're moving even further into this pandemic and still unclear of where it will end, what are your top three measurable items and measures that teens can take to keep themselves mentally and physically healthy during these times?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that to recognize that this is an adversity or catastrophe or a major event. It's a once in a lifetime event, once in a century event, and to take heed that life is very temporary, and we have limited time to do good for which we'll have to account for someday. So this life is limited. This life is going to be over, whether it's today, tomorrow, in a month, 10 years, or 100 years. So that reminder is very important. That and then we will, based on my faith, we have an infinite amount of time in grave and in another life. So whatever we do, we'll have to pay for it in future. So to keep that mindfulness. Number two is to we don't know how long we are alive, so we 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 should take the moment to do good. Okay, you may not have the next moment or tomorrow to do good. Be good to the people closest to you. Be good to the people you may have been unkind to you, or who may have been unkind to you. Pick up the phone and call. Stay connected. I think connection, support system are the best way to keep healthy in any health condition. Those are the biggest determinant of a good outcome. Your close relationship, your friends, your parents, your brothers and sisters, distant cousins, neighbors, kids in the class. So pick up the phone and call and stay connected as much as you can, and do as much good as you can. This moment would be over and it would not come back. Now is your chance to do good, and it would keep you healthier. I promise.
Dr. Rana, we thank you so much for your phenomenal support and service to kids in need and kids with HIV. And thank you for your service to our children and teens and for giving us your valuable advice today. And
My
answering all.
pleasure, Siri. Thank you so much for having me over here. Huh? God bless you. Take care.
Thank you.